Right, here we go. The dreaded, the awesome, the amazing sig figs. We're actually, today won't, ooh, do I have a worksheet? Darn it, remember I got to print out a worksheet for it. Today won't take too long because we're not actually going to do the operations yet, we're just going to do identifying sig figs. So tomorrow will be operations, and then I think we're like almost done with the chapter. Like maybe done by Friday probably. So I test like Monday or Tuesday, if I were to take a guess. Okay.
Do we have homework in biology? Today?
Alright, so let me kind of explain significant digits. Okay? When you make a measurement, which happens a lot in science, right? You do a lot of stuff in the lab, whatnot, and you go to an instrument to make a measurement. Well, each instrument has a certain precision associated to it. Some things are more precise, some things are not as precise. So, there's an ethical thing that we have to consider. If I'm using an instrument that's not very precise, I cannot show an answer that is way more precise than the instrument gave me. Okay? Well, that's not so bad. But what about when we actually do multiplication, division, addition, subtraction with two different numbers that came from two different instruments? One was precise, one was not as precise. Okay, so essentially you cannot be any more precise than your least precise digit. You cannot be, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? Kind of type of thing. Make sense? Unless your weakest link doesn't have a place.
You play.
Alright, does that make sense? So what we have to do with the purpose of sig figs is so that we can show an answer that is ethical, that is not lying when it comes to precision. If I only have an instrument that is precise enough to measure to the tenths place and I show it to the 10,000ths place, I'm really just lying. So not only is we're talking biblical here, right? Did you know that sig figs are biblical?
Okay, that's Ben being descriptive, so you're making more of
That is a bit stretch.
So you're saying telling the truth is not biblical?
This is not stretching truth.
Why are you putting that?
It's not bad.
Oh my soul.
Every decision you make, there's an aspect of truth to it.
Yeah, the Bible only relates to spiritual things, not math.
Shut up. No, I'm saying, how can you say, like, if I put
The Bible.
2 plus whatever
It's
is
an accident, I'm
like,
sure it's-
and then put the wrong number, it's not.
If it's
lying.
accidental, then that's different. But if you know what the precision is, and you choose to make it more precise, maybe because it looks better, or it'll be cooler when you publish it in a scientific journal,
You're gonna go to heck.
well, we're going to go to hell regardless if we make that sin or not if we don't repent. But, yeah, right. I should maybe make this public so people actually watch it. I feel like if I do that, then, they'll come after me.
Yeah, it's government.
It's coming. Oh, have you ever heard of the whole, what is it called? I don't have time to try to go over it, but the Bethlehem Star thing that's all going around.
But there's another one?
That there's this guy that was able to trace back, based on how the universe orbits, trace back and figure out what the star was that was with Bethlehem.
I don't know how.
Like there's because people are wondering, well, is this a real star? Is it just God all of a sudden put this thing in the air at the random time, or is this actually part of? To me, I think it's something real, just because God designed it and knew everything when He first did it.
And it shined during the day too, so it had to be something pretty.
And anyways, they figured out that it was like, I don't know, some star overlapping with Jupiter that made this really bright star for a period of time, and they're saying on September 23rd it's going to happen again. Which I don't know if I totally believe it.
It's coming back on
But
next Saturday.
so everyone's like, the end of the world is September 23rd, which I don't believe. I think it's a little stretched. But it's kind of cool to think about it.
A lot more birth pains than birthdays go through.
Probably.
And I feel like any day
I'm not
that
saying
someone
I agree with it. I just thought it was interesting.
not gonna be that
You
day.
only be able to see it in like Israel.
But here's
Good question. I doubt it. Well, if you think about it, the wise men saw it from wherever they were. Did you know that the wise men didn't actually get to Jesus till he was like almost 2?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
I mean, so they saw it when he was born, and they started going. So it was like a 2 years journey. Trad stinks.
But if it's a star in the sky, how do you know when you're there?
Good question.
Directly underneath.
These people must have been super intelligent and understood how things moved around. And
They weren't. Like, they like.
yeah.
back in the day, they used
Yeah,
stars on
they were
Earth.
like.
Yeah, they were like super, because obviously if you're traveling for 2 years, that star wasn't up in the air for 2 years. Right? So they were able to figure out
Was it?
where
Or
where
was
that
it a
star
specific
was.
sign by God that He just put there?
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say I can say with 100% that it was a deal. But if you read the documentary or watch the documentary on YouTube, it's actually quite.
What's it called?
I'll look it up. Like the Bethlehem Star documentary. It's like this old guy that's really smart. But anyway, stick figures. I don't know why I got off on that, but
Scripture.
all right. So here's what we have to do. We have 4 rules for determining if a number is significant or not, and it all deals with the number what?
There.
0. Okay? So any non-zero number will always be a significant number because you knew it.
What time does class get over?
20.
I'm getting sick right now. I don't think I'll make it to this street.
You're getting sick?
No.
Is that a joke?
No.
Okay. So, we got a whole bunch of rules for zeros to see if they are significant or not. First rule, number 1. This one's the easiest rule, I think. Makes sense also. I think pretty logically makes sense. It says zeros between non-zero digits are significant. So, if I were to look at this number, how many significant digits would this number have based on this rule, Rachel? 3. Okay, now from a conceptual standpoint, why does it make sense that this 0 is significant?
It's not 5.3.
We know the next one, so we
Yeah.
obviously know.
Because precision has to do with, do we know that that number is actually that number, or is it an estimated number? Does that make sense? This is technically the estimated number. This is 100% sure, assuming your device is measuring it correctly. Does that make sense? Okay, so the last digit, you always have one estimated digit at the end, and that is going to be significant because you can estimate to one place. Okay, so this has 3. Pretty straightforward.
This is what I think.
Brevin, how many? 5. Well, how come? Because it says this 0 has to be between 2 non-zero digits. Well, this 0 is between a 0 and a non-zero.
Yeah, but if you take out that 0, then it's not the same number. So it has to be.
Okay, sure. That's true. Okay, I'm just trying to see if I can trick you. I'm not trying to trick you.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe should I just assume you remember sig figs and just
No.
move on?
Yes, do it.
No.
Okay, then.
I'll teach Quinlan later, and then we can just move on.
All right, that one's pretty easy. This one, zeros in front of non-zero digits are not significant. So the question is, what does the context of in front of mean?
Yes.
How do we normally read numbers?
From
Left,
Left to right. So if we're talking about in front, we're going to talk about reading it from left to right. So the first numbers that you see reading left to right would be the front.
well, that's from reading in Hebrew.
Okay? Does that make sense? Okay?
No.
Now, this 0 is not significant, although can we just get rid of it?
Yes,
No.
you can.
Well, how about the next one?
No, you can't. 'Cause it's not
Nope.
the decimal.
Now, this is the hardest one to explain. I remember your brother having a big trouble with this, and I had to like print off a document that kind of explained it. He did a pretty good job explaining it, but he was still like, that's a stretch. But I remember. The reason why I have a little bit of trouble with this one is because we know these numbers are zeros,
Yeah.
right?
But those are significant.
Yeah. No, these numbers aren't significant based on the rule.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, but if you just put 0.8, it'd be different than 0.0.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. This is the one that's most difficult, and the reason why is they say these zeros are just placeholders. And here's another thing. And I think it has to do more with you don't write the number 421 with the zeros in front of it. Like that's not a thing to do.
You could write it scientific.
Yeah, but that could also affect the, like 8% and 80% could be affected by a zero.
No,
So if you put 0.08, that's different.
That's a little, yeah,
that's
it's a little different.
good, because if that rule was not there, then there would be an infinite amount of significant digits, because we know
Yeah.
it's a 0, 10,000, it's a 0, 1,000, it's a 0, 100, it's a 0, 10. I understand
I mean, I could take this zero and go all the way to infinity. Is what Gage is saying is we know that the ones place is a zero, the tens place is a zero, the hundreds place is a zero, and so forth. You could take that and say that this has an infinity amount of sig figs in it.
Every number.
Thank you. I never thought of it that way.
But the ones after the decimal.
Yes. that's what
They're
I'm talking
showing.
Yes, we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Showing
Precision. Yeah, they're showing precision. These are placeholders. There's no way we could eliminate them without changing the number, but if we said that they were significant, Gage is right. We would have an infinite amount of significant digits for anything that had a zero at the beginning.
So you didn't have
Or any decimal number for that
You
matter.
could say in front of non-zero digits after the decimal.
about. Who cares?
Well, it's still the same.
No.
Just
That
write
would
it
be
scientific
the three
notation.
zeros in between them.
I think it's easier just to do it this way in this case than having to, okay, these zeros are significant, but these ones aren't.
Because it's the same rule, but it's just.
Oh, so how many sig figs does this one have then, based on the rule?
3. The first one has 3.
This one.
Oh,
3. That's not. How about this one?
1.
1. Those are not.
That's what we're just doing.
That's what we're just talking about.
I don't like this.
Okay? So just think of it.
Oh.
Read a number left to right. You don't start counting sig figs until you see your first what?
Number
Non-zero number. Okay? Sure, it's difficult to wrap our mind around how it affects precision and things like that. But if you just follow the rule, it's a pretty simple rule. And I do like what Gage pointed out. I think that's making it much more solidified in my brain than it was before. So thank you.
1 point of
Yeah, I'll give you 100 point nano points for that one.
Whoa.
That was valuable information.
Nice.
Okay. So now we've got zeros, but they're not in front of, they're at the end, or to the right of the rest of the non-zero digits.
2 and 1.
Okay.
However,
2 and 1.
These are showing precision
Yes.
just as much as those others.
But they're going 2
to
seconds.
a certain extent, yes. But you can cut these off. You can't cut
What?
those other ones off.
Why
Four.
can't you?
7.
Like I can't get rid of all the zeros.
I get that. It's still
What the
Wait,
heck?
but you can't cut those off.
What if you cut those off
Yeah.
until we 57 plus?
You're right.
No.
But I want to know
You can't cut
precision.
the ones off.
For example, listen. I could have just wrote 57, but if I do that, I'm not showing that I used an instrument that was precise enough to actually tell me these are
Oh,
zeros.
right.
Okay? Same thing with this one. I could have just said 2, but I use an instrument that I know that these are zeros. It's not a guess that they're zeros. They are. Assuming the instrument's correct.
Wouldn't that also make it infinite in that other
Yeah.
direction?
No, because I
You
don't,
know it after that
like,
you're-
like
you can't add
once I
zero.
stop here, the instrument isn't able to tell me that the rest of them are zeros.
But then how is that explaining anything? You could
But then
just
what
be
if
putting zeros that you don't know.
No,
are-
because
No,
then
I'm
once you
saying,
tell
this
me
is
the
what
number,
I'm saying is this is what the instrument tells us. I'm not just putting zeros for the fun of it. I'm saying I used an instrument that told me that all these numbers here were zero. The instrument figured it out.
So all this
This
is
is
pi
showing
have
you're
an
reading
infinite
it from-
number.
Yeah, I'm not making these numbers up. I'm getting them from an instrument.
Yeah.
Yes.
This pi pi have an infinite number of significant digits?
I'm pretty sure it's.
If it goes on to infinity,
Yeah.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, Mr. Merrifield has a thing that shows all of them.
Piece of pie.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a single zero.
You keep going for.
Okay, let me see.
I know.
Tyler, how many sig figs would this have based on the rule? That's not Tyler.
More.
Okay, Quinlan, how about this one? Get some counting to do, but that's 7. It's like.
There's so many.
Okay, so yes, the specific thing for this is I'm using an instrument that can tell me how precise it is, and I know these are zeros. I didn't just add them for fun. This is probably the hardest one. Because it's kind of a double rule, and I don't really put the second part of the rule up here because I'll explain it, and usually you guys do just fine. This is also one that it's easier to explain, but it usually takes students a little bit longer. Okay, it says, so first off, are these zeros at the end of the number just like these zeros are at the end of the number?
Yeah.
No.
Yes, they're at the end of the number.
They're not.
They're on the right of the number, right? But they're in a different spot in relation to what? The decimal. Okay. Here's why these guys aren't significant how I wrote it. If you had an instrument that could only measure to the thousands place, aka it's always rounded to the thousands place, that's all it could do from a percentage standpoint. This number could be anywhere from 500 to 1,499. If I'm rounding to the thousands place, what does 500 round? Not 500. Yeah. What does 500 round up to? 1,000. If I have this number, what does that number round down to? 1,000. So if I had an instrument that wasn't precise enough to measure hundreds, tenths, and ones place, what would that do? It would round it to 1,000. So do we know that these numbers are zero? No. So can they be significant? They can if you don't know they're zeros. However, is there a situation where you had an instrument that was precise enough to measure the ones place and it knew all of those were ones?
Yeah, they would be significant.
Then they would be significant, but we have to show it a different way. There are 2 ways to do it. You either go like this. This decimal tells me that I had an instrument that measured those to be zero. We knew it. It wasn't rounded. There was a second way to do it. Anyone know? Scientific notation. You could write this number. Okay? By this rule, these are significant now. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay? So, the difficulty here is when you do not have it in the decimal places, like for example, if we didn't have a precise instrument that was this precise, we could cut off those zeros and it wouldn't change the number, right? But I can't cut off these zeros because it would what? Significantly change the number. So, we've got to determine, do we have an instrument that's precise enough to measure that those are zeros or not? If they don't, you can leave it without a decimal. If they do, add a decimal. Here's where it gets even trickier. What if we knew that these two were zero, but we knew that this one was not?
Yeah, it's not significant.
The only way to write this correctly would be in scientific notation. Because if I have a decimal, that has too many sig figs, right? If I remove the decimal, it has too little sig figs. Correct?
Yeah.
So I would have to go 1.00 times 10 to the third. 3 sig figs, still 1,000?
Yep.
Okay. Alright.
I hated this day last year.
Is it
I-
easier today
No.
than it was last year?
It is. Yeah, I never really got it completely, but I understood how to do it, and now it's kind of solidified.
It's
Yeah.
confusing me more, like I knew it.
The Y's are confusing.
I think the Y is hell, personally, but
Well,
that's just
you can't take it in context of the number, you have to take it
As if you
context
were
of the
reading it.
measure.
of a measurement. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the
So
thing.
how many sig figs as this is written, Gage?
1.
What about now? And if I wanted to show 2 or 3, I would have to put it in scientific notation. Okay? Brevin, how many?
1,
Now, how many?
2.
Okay.
Got it.
Alright. I want you guys, with your notes out, to give your take on all of those.
Really?
Then we're done.
Print a worksheet.
Okay. Well, can I, since it's on your notepad, can I move the screen? Do you guys all got your notepad?
Once I finish this, may I address you before you go to the screen?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because she won't let
So we're just saying how many there are?
Yep. Identify how many sig figs each of those numbers have. Done already?
Because I,
He's hustled.
Yeah, there were
That's
Okay.
just my favorite.
Hey, it's not for history. No, but seriously, right for the words. She's gonna go home. She's gonna be like,
You can't skip the first day of homeschool.
We'll be right off there. Or as Mrs. Stafford calls it, fake song.
Lyrics of love. That's what I call it.
What?
Lyrics of love.
His name is Hope Sing.
But I like lyrics of love. Sounds better. I know. That's why I just joke with them.
Lyrics of
How about,
Okay, keep working. We won't go over them.
how about Jingles of Jesus?
Symbols of Jesus?
Jingles.
What the heck is jingles?
Or
jingles sound like
Jingles.
songs.
It does. like
Jingles of Jesus.
Jingles.
Jesus jingles.
Jubilee. Jesus.
Yeah, Jubilee. Jesus Jubilee.
Jesus does jingle.
Jingly Jesus
No,
Jubilees.
no.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's great Hope Sing.
I'll be back and we'll go over those.
Hops.
I don't either.
I'm so sad for you.
4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3. Because this is,
Well, that printer had a machine failure, so we'll try this
it's not
again.
yours today. Right, so.
I is hunger. I is hunger. You had like 17 practice. I had 6.
I don't understand the reason that I just can't print.
Hearts, hon. Hearts are very filling. Dear, you doing it on purpose?
I had to do, no, I had to reprint.
It's not.
Alright, here we go.
Oh, wait.
Once I print it, I print it to the other one and then there's a machine failure. So I had to print it to a different printer. Alright, here we go. Oh, yeah, over. Here we go. Just rapid fire. We'll call on you. You tell me how many sig figs they have. Start with Marty.
4.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Gage.
2.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Natalie.
2. No?
Okay, that was the nail I wanted, but that works. 2. Sorry.
You lied.
You're right. I'm sorry. I was going
in order.
I was going in order.
Oh.
Benitez. How about this one? Just ignore that. Yep. Anytime you have it in scientific notation, based on the rules, if you write it correctly, all of them should be significant. Okay? Tyler.
3.
Yeah, you see that little decimal there. Very good. Shelby.
Why does that visible?
Yeah.
Bigger.
6, right?
Yes.
I purposely blew it up so that it would be bigger. So
This one's a nice trigger.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's infinity.
4.
Trinity.
Trinity?
That is your name.
Oh, 5.
5.
I didn't hear my name.
Not significant, because it's no numbers before the first non-zero number are significant. These between here are significant, because they're between two whole numbers. And is this at the end and to the right of the decimal?
Yes.
Yes, so all those are significant. 5.
This next one.
Rachel.
4.
Yes. Tanner.
3.
No. Nice try.
Is it to the right of the decimal and at the end of the number?
Yeah, buddy.
Natalie, stop saying funny.
Alright, as I go to get the homework, Brevin, the next one.
3.
Just Trinity.
3, Quinlan, the next one. Yes, and Natalie Lane. 3, I'll go get them, I'll be right back.
Hey, do you know why they call it Trinity?
Yeah, because they watched Measurements and I was looking at that because
That's really why you're
That is why I made Trinity.
Are you
My mom and dad cannot decide on any names. They watched a really crappy movie computers. And they're like, hey, Trinity. Okay, sure.
Oh, I thought it was because you had
They were
3
gonna make me-
personalities and they're all hard to
They're
figure
gonna make
out.
me Tyler. And my sister's name is Taylor.
So, I don't know why you did this. Don't look at the back when you're doing this, okay?
Why? That means
Just don't do it.
what is on it? I'm like,
What is it?
Tanner,
I think it's completely great anyways.
you won't get better.